like a nunchuck tongue. I got a girl Emily, she lady drives me crazy. I got a girl Emily, she lady drives me crazy. She got tiny feet and
Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I sometimes hear voices from a guy called Gary.
And I'm Gary.
What?
And today we're going to review and discuss The Voices, which came out in 2014. Written by Michael R. Perry and directed by Marjane Satrapi. Iain, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows Jerry, played by Ryan Reynolds. Jerry works at a factory and is starting to get feelings for a local worker there, played by Gemma Arterton. But Jerry is also hearing voices from his cat, voiced by Ryan Reynolds, and his dog, voiced by Ryan Reynolds. And some madcap adventures might just follow.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So this was a script that was floating around for like a good 5 years before a studio finally decided to go ahead with this film.
Yeah.
Ben Stiller was originally attached to be the main star of the film, although due to some budget inflation issues, again, the project got dropped until Ryan Reynolds picked it up, and then the studio went along with this until we have the film that we have, which went to Sundance Film Festival. It did fairly well, so much so that Lionsgate picked the film up for distribution.
Yeah.
And then on its opening weekend at cinema, it made about $5,000 because nobody went to see this film, and it has died a horrible death, and nobody knows about this film whatsoever.
Well, if that's the case, I'm here to resurrect it. This movie was a fucking candle in the darkness. You know, you watch a lot of films and people say there's a lot of schlocky shit out there. And I'll admit, I'm one of those people. And I think I saw the trailer for The Voices and I thought to myself, hey, yeah, that looks good. It's got the guy from Green Lantern in it. Yeah, I really like the guy from that. You know, I like Ryan Reynolds. And I never went to see it because it just... I think there was other things out, you know, there were...
I know there was probably a plethora of talking animal movies at the time, and it was just like, no more.
Maybe, but there was still something about this movie, and there's something I would say about Ryan Reynolds. You know, like Van Wilder Party Liaison was where I first saw him, and I was like, man, this guy's career is just gonna... Because I hate the movie, and then Green Lantern, I'm like, damn, you know, can this guy catch a break? Deadpool was just amazing, and I realized that he's really, really good at what he does as long as he's given the right material.
Yeah, see, I was kind of the same. I put him in like the same camp as Matthew McConaughey, you know? At the time, like in the 90s, like all you would see these two in is like romantic comedies, chick flicks, you know?
Yeah.
All of that sort of fluff sort of movies.
But the thing is, we knew McConaughey could act.
Yes.
We didn't know at that point that Ryan Reynolds
It was a few years ago when he did a film called Buried, where it was just him the entire runtime of the film, no other actors. And I was like, he's proven himself in this film. He kept my interest the entire time.
Yeah.
I believe him as an actor. And that was the film that changed my opinion on him.
Well, secretly, I kind of like him in the Amityville remake. You know, I know the film's not great, but he plays the cool dad in the horrific situation. And that's what I mean. The right material, he makes it work.
Yeah.
And with this, I started watching this, and I already knew that it was about a guy who kind of talks to his cat and his dog. And then you read up that, you know, he does all three voices.
Yeah.
And he did that over the phone for the audition.
Well, it was the fact that he had the part, and the director was casting voice actors for the cat and dog.
Yes.
And he sent, you know, voice recorded messages of the cat and dog. So the director was like, who are those?
Yeah.
And he was like, that was me doing the voices.
That was me doing the voices. And
I was like, well, it actually makes sense that he's the one hearing the voices. They would be his voice, but with accents and personality added to them so that they feel like distinct characters.
Are you gonna kill someone else?
Me? No, of course not. Sick, disturbed cat.
the whole film itself has got a otherworldly feel. Initially, he lives in Milton, this small town. It's even got its own theme song. And he makes, or he works in this bath factory.
Right.
And he's just a really happy worker, and he just, gets along with everybody. And they ask him to organize the staff party. And he gets together with some of the other workers too. And one of them, the gorgeous Gemma Atherton. I don't really know what to say about this lady, really.
No, it was great to see Gemma Arterton. Haven't seen her really since like Byzantium, so it'd been a while, and it's always a little bit jarring when you hear that very forced British accent coming through with all of these American accents around it. It makes it much more obvious.
Oh, but just, her look alone, she immediately stands out from everybody else, because Jerry sees her as this beautiful goddess, which secretly I do as well, but that's not the point. He's seeing it in a weird way, that he sees everything as a happy-go-lucky kind of world, and then when he goes back to his apartment and the cat, Mr. Whiskers, is talking to him, and Bosco, his dog, is talking to him, and they're explaining to him that nobody likes him, everybody hates him, he'd be just better off like killing them all and killing himself. The sequences with the doctor, that's where the film started to take the proper dark turn for me.
It's when the psychiatrist is just like, so how are you feeling, and are you still taking your drugs? And,
Yeah.
and he always answers honestly, because he's just like, well, he always says he's not taking the drugs, but he always says he's not hearing the voices, because she's always asking if he's hearing disembodied voices.
Yes.
And he's like, well, no, I'm not. The voices are coming from my pets. So it's like... and so you see his innocence and his naivety,
but scary as well, because he's not taking his pills.
Yes,
and she's telling him that he needs to.
Right,
and he just carries on with the whole sequence where he sets up the date with Fiona.
Yes, and it is awkward, because you can tell that she's kind of, I won't say she's not repulsed by him, but she's clearly uncomfortable with him, and she's clearly just lying to him to get away, especially with the way she gets out of the car and runs away from him at one point when he drops her home, after she had lied to him about going out and then went out with the other girls on a karaoke night.
Well, that's it. She's a bit of the office bitch, and she's playing that character well, because he's not seeing that.
Yeah.
He generally thinks that she's this beautiful, honest woman, where you've got Anna Kendrick in the background playing Lisa.
Who's clearly infatuated with Jerry. You
Yes.
know, that part in the office where she's like, hey, hello. And he's just like, yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, that's well, when they go to the bar, I thought that sequence was awesome, because he's so infatuated with Fiona, he's distracted. And Lisa, Anna Kendrick's character, says to him, like, oh, I could really go for a lift. But then she kind of links it to Fiona, and he just immediately gets distracted by Fiona talking and says, oh yeah, I'll drop you home. Yeah, it'll be fine. And everyone just finds the whole sequence just awkward.
Yep.
Which, for me, I felt bad, because I hadn't seen the film before, because I immediately thought it was Ryan Reynolds being a goofball listening to voices from his pets. Where, to me, this is genuinely a guy who's got some serious mental issues, not taking the medication that he's supposed to, and seeing the world in a particular way.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely got, like, a form of schizophrenia.
Oh, definitely.
But there's quite a few, I'm not a doctor, so I couldn't really isolate all of the, issues that he has, but he is very, very troubled.
Yes.
And, this film is a slow descent into his mental health. And, like you said, this film has that veneer, this polish, this glossy fantasy fairy tale shine over the whole film.
Yeah.
And, and it's only now that we're going to start to see the layers behind Jerry as we get further and further into his world, whilst we're dealing with listening to Mr. Whiskers doing everything in its power to put Jerry down.
Well, fuck me. I'm an asshole. I apologise, man. You were right. Cat food's in the kitchen, Jerry, and I can't open the can. I don't have thumbs.
Jerry invites Fiona out to a Chinese restaurant for a meal, and she doesn't want to go. She finds it really awkward. And you get the sequence where he's sat at the restaurant on his own, watching the Elvis impersonator, which I'd love to go to that restaurant. It just looks awesome.
He's also just sat there talking to the fish.
That conversation was great. And then you've got the cut of the girls singing back and forth, and everybody's having this great time. And it doesn't come across as awful or evil at any point, but you know that it is building up to something bad happening. And then these events just happen in order. Like, she drops her phone in the rain, so that takes the phone out. She gets a lift back to her car by Anna Kendrick, and, you know, when she gets back to her car, she realizes she's out of petrol. You know, Jerry just happens to be driving home. He's sad, he's upset, and she gets caught in the rain, and it's him that she flags down. And I'm like, this is so well put together. It puts most horror movies to shame.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, it's so many coincidences, though, that have just led to this. But yeah, you know, she's in the car with him, and like I said, just really uncomfortable. And he's like, yeah, I'll drop you home.
Yeah, but he tells her to wrap herself up in this blanket, and as he wraps herself up to warm, they're driving along, he starts talking about angels.
Yeah.
And how his mum used to hear angels, and how the angels could also be demons. And you're thinking, okay, this is getting a little bit awkward now. She should have just gone back to her apartment instead of driving out here. They hit the deer. A deer comes out of nowhere and just smashes through the windscreen. And while it's lying there, it says to Jerry, "Kill me."
Jerry, kill me. I want to die. Take your knife and cut my throat. Don't worry, I'll help you.
Yeah.
And he just whips out this knife
and cuts it and kills it, which of course like completely panics Fiona, who goes running out of the car, and he goes chasing after her.
It's so innocent, him just running along like, please stop, I'm not trying to hurt you. And you think, yeah, from some angle.
Yeah. But then of course he falls right on top of her, knife, you know, in front of him, stabbed. You know, she starts coughing blood and dying, and he's just like, oh no, Fiona, I'm sorry. And then repeatedly stabs her, apologizing for every stab.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
This film is taking a very dark turn here. Things have escalated very, very quickly. Now what's he gonna do? Like, where does the film go from here?
Man, he goes home and he's talking to Mr. Whiskers, and Mr. Whiskers knows what he's been up to, and then explains to him, look, you've left the body out there for a fucking hitchhiker to get, so you're gonna have to go and find it. And so he goes and gets the body, brings it back. He has that little moment with the sheriff, which I thought was awesome, because he's there just buying like boxes and, you know, a saw sets, you know, and the sheriff stops him and says, what happened to your car? And he's got cardboard over the front of his engine. He's like, oh yeah, I hit a deer and I just laid it to the side of the road. And then everything still comes across innocent. Like, Jerry wouldn't hurt a fly.
Right.
But at the same time, you're like, there is a whole history here that people are kind of trying to avoid. And then seeing him at home just chopping up Gemma Atherton's body.
It's the conversation he has with the cat, where he's like devastated that he's killed someone, and the cat's just like, it's in your nature, Jerry. I'm a cat. I kill things all the time, and I don't feel guilty about it.
Bosco, the dog, he's just looking at Jerry, and he's just like, yeah, but, you know, it's kind of wrong, man, you know.
No, I know you're a real good human being, Jerry. There's a good man inside of you.
I love the dog. The cat I could kill instantly.
They're gonna throw your ass in jail, where tattooed meth addicts will butt fuck you daily for 15 years to life.
You're a good man who made a mistake. Nobody is gonna rape you, Jerry.
You know, he has that moment where he's put all her chopped up body parts into Tupperware boxes.
It's horrible. Like when the camera pans and you're like, oh, there's some fingers over there, and oh.
But he doesn't see it, and so when he talks to the doctor again, and the doctor's just like, look, have you been taking your pills? You know, he gets back, and Gemma, Fiona's head screams at him to take the pills. So that made me kind of think that there's a part inside him that doesn't want to be doing all this.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, he knows it's kind of wrong.
But the moment he took the pills, the voices went away and we saw how the apartment really was.
Yes, the walls of reality came crashing down, and now all we're seeing is, well, reality for Jerry's world, and the blood on the walls, all of the garbage and rubbish, and all of the empty pizza boxes, the blood on the counter, the mold. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
And of course, it also then makes you think, like, because we saw him at his workplace with his colleagues.
Yeah.
We saw him, like,
Yes.
at the party and all these other things. Like, so how much of that is
Yeah.
we've seen is only his world. We're not really seeing reality at all.
Yeah.
And this is our glimpse of it. And yeah, it's the fact that the cat doesn't talk to him anymore. The dog doesn't talk to him anymore. The severed head looks like it's rotting in the fridge.
Yeah.
And so he kind of panics. He's like, you know, like, this is horrible. So he's straight back to wanting to take the pills again.
Yeah.
And then Fiona's just like, well, thank you for taking the pills again. Now we can talk, but I'm kind of lonely. I need a friend.
Hey, Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry, can you get me a friend?
A friend?
Now, nobody's really kind of... They're a bit worried about Fiona, but, you know, she had also said, like, she wasn't planning on sticking around.
She could have gone back to England.
You know, so nobody's really worried that she's not been at work for a couple of days. And so, you know, Jerry and Lisa go out to a bar. And Alison, their co-worker as well, she overhears this. So you know now that the movie has just put the hint in of, like, Jerry will get caught out at some point. But he takes Lisa back to the bar and they have a few drinks, but then they go to go back to her place. She needs to feed her pets. He wants to meet the cat, you know, because his cat's talking to him. But he drives her to his home cabin, which is like out in the woods. And you really got the feeling like he's going to kill Lisa.
Yeah, because Fiona wants a friend.
Yes. But the film takes this dark twist, and it was really kind of crazy how it went, because he goes into his house, he's walking Fiona around, and Ryan Reynolds emoting this backstory about his childhood.
It's also filled in with the flashbacks as well.
Yeah, we've seen a few of the flashbacks where he's getting beaten by his dad because he talks to his pet bunny because he's got no friends, because his mum kind of kept him at home. She was crazy. I kind of got freaked out about what time it was set in, because, like, the dad, he said something about his dad coming back from war. She chose him over Berlin, and that made me think of World War II, and I'm like, that can't be right. But this is Jerry's world, you know. Anything could be anything. And when Anna Kendrick starts to take him up to the attic or to the parents' bedroom, you get this whole flashback of him as a kid and how
his mother had, you know, mental health issues of her own and was very suicidal.
Yeah, but
and
she's going to get taken away and locked up.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to go because she believes the voices are real. And Jerry kind of hears voices too. But she, you know, she swears to him, don't ever tell anybody, promise not to tell anybody. And it kind of made me think of Frailty, of them seeing angels too, and demons and that kind of world. But wrong type of movie. And she tries to commit suicide in front of her son, which I'm like, that'll push you right over the fucking edge.
It's the fact that she wraps up the glass and passes it to him, like, to finish the
it.
job, and she's offering her wrists.
But did she?
But
Gary?
Or was that just Jerry's mind?
This is all in Gary. This is all in Jerry's mind, because you know, the police bash in the door and they see him standing over his mum's body with the glass, and I fully believe that she did want him to kill her. But then I'm like,
did the voices tell him to just do that anyway?
I don't know. Where's the dad at this point?
Yeah.
What happens to him? He gets locked up, I think.
I think so. I don't know.
Wait, that's his child, because we don't really find out about much of his childhood, other than, you know, this happened and he was locked up for a while. But she takes him home.
Yes. And, you know, that was where I was just like, because I was waiting for him to kill her.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, we know that Jerry's not he's not a murderer. Like, his personality doesn't indicate it. You know, there's no sign of him, like, looking for his moment. You know, there's no sign of him preparing for the kill. You know, he just seems... it seems like there's a developing relationship between these two characters that wouldn't end with him killing her.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because the movie kind of placed Jerry here. We know his kind of backstory, but here he is living above this bowling alley with this cat and this dog. Where he got them from? How long has he been there? How long has he not been taking the pills or listening to voices? You know, but now all of a sudden he's in this relationship. He wakes up the next morning with Anna Kendrick, you know, and they're all lovey-dovey. He even goes back to work for a bit.
Well, yeah, he realizes he's late for work and he rushes off, and you're just like, it feels like they got nice chemistry, nice relationship is building.
I mean, it's kind of weird, obviously, like, she kind of plays into this, you know, we're seeing it all from Jerry's perspective, but she generally seems like she's infatuated by him and loving him and stuff like that. And she wants to take him a cake. So she speaks to Alison, who's in charge of the payroll, and secretly gets Jerry's address, which I secretly know is a complete governmental fraud thing. So never do that. And so she goes to the apartment to see Jerry. There's this amazing bit where he's watching the news with the cat and dog, and they found some evidence of a woman's body being stabbed in the woods. And the sheriff just starts fucking screaming at Jerry.
Just breaks the fourth wall right through the TV, telling him that we're going to find you! We know it's you! But of course, it gets interrupted with a knock on the door because Lisa's turned up with her cake. She's bought him some cake. But secretly, she wants to just see him, you know. Exactly. Any excuse just to go round there, exactly. Yeah. And of course, he kind of locks himself out coming out to greet her. And he's like, no, you can't come in. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to figure out a way in. And she's like, well, believe it or not, I'm really good at climbing, so I'll climb up. And he's like, no, you go home. I'm going to climb up the ladder. And then I guess she's
really good with lockpicks,
right?
Yeah, she says that she's always getting locked out.
And we as an audience know what's in there, and we're like, the best thing in the world is for her not to go in there.
Yeah.
And then in she goes. So like the moment she goes in, like your heart sinks because you know she's not leaving there alive.
It was just really great to see because I generally felt really bad for Jerry.
Yeah.
You know, like he was trying to build this relationship now, but it's all fucked up. And yes, it's wrong because he's secretly murdered this woman and keeps her head in the fridge, and he is completely crazy. And that's where the movie's balance of, look, this is genuinely, you know, mental health issues, and it is kind of funny what's going on, but it's also really, really bad and dark. And when he drops down, and like Anna Kendrick, I never really saw as a really good actress. I haven't really seen her in a lot other than the Pitch Perfect movies, and I try to avoid them like the plague. There was always going to be one movie that came along that really made me think, wow, this girl can act. She's really, really good at her craft. And this was it, especially this whole sequence where she's trying to fight him. It generally felt like a horror movie, unlike the first kill with Fiona.
It was like an accident that was just then weird.
But it looked like a kill.
Yeah.
You know, he's generally trying to get in at her. So her ripping the bath towel rack off the wall and using it as a weapon and then trying to escape. You know, I did like the way that she didn't even lift up the little towel. She kind of knew that was a head.
Yes, yeah. And, you know, it's you know, just watching Bosco running around the dog, panicking. You know, just, and then that moment where she's isolated in the other room by herself. You know, and Jerry's like knocking on the door. He's like, I'm going to come in now, Lisa. It's okay. We're going to just have a chat. And you're like, she's like, well, I'm sorry I hit you. And he's like, you hit me really hard.
Yeah.
It's like maybe they won't kill each other.
Yeah, maybe it'll end nicely.
I'm really sorry.
I know, it was scary. I didn't mean to scare you. You hit me so hard.
It's okay.
But no, she was just using this because she realised that, you know, Jerry is vulnerable, that he isn't, you know, in control of himself.
But is he? Because he grabs her with some force as she tries to run away and throws her back.
And she bangs her head on the back of the bedpost and on the wooden pole. And like it looks like she's paralyzed because she doesn't move. But then you're like, well, maybe she still is okay. And so you watch her bloodshot eye fill with blood. And we're just like, yeah, okay. And then it's not long before we see another head placed in the fridge next to Fiona.
They're looking at you. The two actresses, the effect of these two heads in the fridge was just great.
I mean, it's a simple old effect, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know?
but my imagination's going mad about how they've got it to work, how they've put it together. You know, like there's some proper puppetry work at one moment with Gemma Atherton's head that from an angle doesn't look right, but then at a certain angle looks right. And then they're talking to him. You know, he generally, you know, is feeling really, really bad. There's a couple of moments where he does look like he's going to have a proper breakdown with everything that's going on. Because he knows really what's really going on. And then poor Alison turns up at his place. Alison from Payroll, she turns up looking for Lisa. And he just opens the door and her head gets put in the fridge.
Yep, simple as.
I wait. Yeah, he's so sexy when he's dark. Like
Now it does, you know, just a small little bit of trivia.
Right,
If you go back to the conga line, they all died in line of the conga line.
I thought that when I was watching it, I was just like, man, because I'd seen Fiona was at the front. I'm sure I saw Lisa
second,
there, Alison's there, and then Jerry, and he has this proper break now and goes to see his doctor. And, you know, we've seen her a couple of times, and I'm just like, bitch, she's not taking the pills. She has killed 3 people. And she's like, oh, well, it's not like you've not killed anybody. And he's like, yeah, kind of is.
Like 3 times. You can see her reaching for her phone, the panic button. But of course, Jerry, this is like the only time in the film where he really kind of snaps, where he kind of snatches the phone out of her hand, and eventually takes his therapist hostage.
Yeah.
He drives her out and he's just like, no more bullshit psychiatrist talk. You talk. Tell me what's wrong with me.
Yeah. That was a really great scene with everything else that we'd seen going on, you know, the gore, the comedy, whatnot. Just Ryan Reynolds in this field with this woman who's tied up in parcel tape on the bonnet of the car, breaking down for him the different voices that people will hear in their life. I was like, that's brilliant. But it doesn't change the fact that he's killed 3 people and he's talking to his fucking cat. You know, this guy has got some serious issues. I mean, it all stems back to his childhood, about how he was raised, his environment, and how he's been taken care of. You know, the pills are doing what they can, but he generally needs to, you know, confront these things. And he takes her back to the bowling alley. Yeah. You know, I was
going to say there's a horrible like day for night shot where there's 2. Is it 2 colleagues that he works with? Have gone there to find out what's going on, and they break in, and we don't see what they see, but of course they come out vomiting from what's going on in there.
And he's like, "Oh, you better call the police." And it's like, okay. And then Jerry comes home.
Yeah, and the police don't turn. So it's like, how many hours later before the police turned up? I mean, we hear about like police delays or never turning up when you need them anyway. But
yeah, and Jerry gets home and takes the doctor in, and she sees everything around her, and she's just like, you know, this is absolutely just terrible what you've done. She even puts the head down on the table, and that completely freaks her out. And when the police turn up, he's going to escape because Bosco has been accidentally let out, so he's got to go find his dog, and Mr. Whiskers is giving him shit, telling him like, you know, you're going to jail, they're going to fucking fry you. And he accidentally hits the gas pipe on the way out.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, how's all this going to end? Is it going to end in like an explosive finale? Is it going funny? You know, because the film for me had really run the fine line of being a dark comedy, like serious shit's going on. You know, if Jerry gets away, what kind of message is that movie trying to say now? And they fire the CS gas inside and set the pipe off.
Right, yeah. So he ended up with a massive explosion. The psychiatrist did say, like, don't harm Jerry. He's innocent in this, even though she knows, like, everything that's going on. And so there is, like, a sense of preserving that life, even though it is murderous. It's not his fault. He is mentally damaged.
Yes.
But there is that moment, like, in the smoke, you know, when Jerry's left, like, he's realised, like, the pills are doing, were working and like being off them.
Yeah.
Like he realized like the dog and cat was, all in his head.
Yes.
Like, there was a bit of a realization before he kind of lays down to die.
Yeah, he hears all the voices at the end, doesn't he? They're all saying like, let's go, let's not. And Bosco's kind of there saying, no, let's just stop. And he just kind of lays down.
We could have filled 10 more refrigerators, Jerry.
Shush, pussy. If he survives, he'll only cause more suffering, pain, and death. It's over. Jerry's going home.
And the movie just kind of slides into his eye.
Yeah.
And we go into Jerry's mind, and you get the cat and the dog just talking to themselves at the end.
Before they go their separate ways.
It was quite sweet.
It was.
It was like you said, it's like at the end of Silence of the Lambs, when Hannibal Lecter is kind of getting away, you're like, oh my God, you leave a dirty chill in your spine. When the psycho kind of manages to escape, it's the thought that they're still out there. With Jerry, he was innocent, I suppose. The way he was raised was horrible. He's done some horrible things. From our perspective, the way the film had broadcast them to us, they were accidents. And he definitely did kill Alison. He probably killed Alison, and possibly Lisa. He could. But now he's dying, and it's like, yes, this is a sad ending, kind of. But here's them all now dancing.
It's a song and dance number finale, and it's like, well, like horror comedies, I guess, kind of work having a musical number at the end. To an extent, because it takes all the sting and punch out of murder, which is like one of the greatest sins, and he murdered these 3 women, and but
did he? Because this is it's not like he was fucking Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, a psychopath going out of his way.
I think he definitely killed these people.
Yeah, in a perspective, because he was hearing voices because he hadn't taken his medicine. Now, I wouldn't say he's up there with the levels of, like I said, Freddy Krueger, And I'm glad Freddy Krueger doesn't do a dance number at the end of his movies. But for this movie, it really worked. Because it's like Jerry standing there going, hey guys, I'm really sorry I killed you. Oh, it's all right, Jerry.
And all the girls are like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Is that really them talking, though? Or is their spirits...
We're still in Jerry's mind. Maybe he didn't actually die and the paramedics pulled him out of the fire. That's it. He's completely gone now. He's completely gone.
Yeah.
Well, Iain, what were your favourite scenes in the film?
Oh, man, most of my favourite scenes entail around Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds talking to a cat, talking to a dog, trying to justify the different situations that he's found himself into. There's some really just good acting moments from him where the film, like I said, it flipped from being this horror comedy kind of dark comedy movie to seriously kind of grabbing hold of me. Like the moment where he's talking to everything at once. Whiskers is talking to him, the 2 heads in the fridge are talking to him, the dog is talking to him, and everything's screaming at him about what he should do or what he should do next and what he should blah blah blah, and he just screams stop really, really loud, like goes proper red in the face.
The one time in the whole film where he loses his cool. Really.
Yeah, and it just goes completely silent. And when it goes completely silent, it's like after he'd stopped taking the pills. It was, the movie had like a different tone to it. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to go back. So when he woke up the next morning, the light was kind of shining on him.
Yeah,
everything was happening. I got really freaked out when he was eating the cereal.
Right.
I'm like, what is he eating? Because I've seen what
the reality is. Yeah. Well, I mean, like when he's in the car and there's like butterflies flying around him. He's in his own world.
Yeah. The ladies in this movie were absolutely astounding. I mean, like we said, Fiona, played by Gemma Arterton, she's a fabulous, fabulous actress, and her, upper lip British lady who didn't want to be in this town was just brilliant, going up against Jerry's angelic view of her. There was that part in the car where she was completely
fully angel.
White. Anna Kendrick, like I said, I was really surprised by just how she was in this movie. Because I don't know, I always thought that she was a bit fake. I don't know how that works. But this one, she shone, and especially in that last sequence where she broke her neck. She was fighting Jerry and she broke her neck. And I really felt bad for her as she was lying there dying, because Jerry's not doing anything. He just lies next to her and she can't move.
Yeah.
And like you said, the whole eye sequence. The sheriff screaming at him through the TV. Just, are you going to stop? Gary, have you got any?
Yeah, for me, it's probably going to be most of the pet stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I was really transfixed with the voice that he'd put on for both of them. And the personalities of the pets were so distinct and so unique and brilliant.
The effects were, like, top-notch.
Yes,
like,
the lip movements, the animations of it all, really, really, really well done. And I think it's one of the lines where, I think it's Brosco turns to Jerry and says, "We are not like the pussy, Jerry. We have morals," And it's when Brosco turns to Jerry and he's like, he turns to Mr. Whiskers and he's, "You see, I've earned the right to be called a good boy." And Mr. Whiskers is like, "You've earned the right to be hit by a minivan." It's just like the back and forth, the dialogue, the script is really good, and Ryan Reynolds really delivers those characters, which just makes all the scenes with just him and the two pets absolutely mesmerizing. It keeps you engrossed in the film. And it makes you forget that this is like, there are some horrible things going on in the film, and it all just adds into this wonderful mix. The cat explaining, that there's no shame in killing, another great moment. And I think my favorite or most memorable scene in the film is that scene where he takes the pills, and the whole world, we see he sees the reality, and so do we, and like that horror, that realization, and it's that moment that lingers over the rest of the film as the film plays with its next batch of characters before something horrible happens. It lets us know what to expect, and so I thought that was a really great moment in the film that really kind of shifted the gear then, for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Well, Iain, do you recommend The Voices?
I definitely do recommend The Voices. I have grown to really, really, really appreciate Ryan Reynolds over the years. I just think he just overshines in everything that he does. You give him any role to play and he'll say, "Well, how do you want it?" They'll ask him and he'll just deliver it. This film, I was watching this film and I was just like, this is like sitting inside Deadpool's mind. If Deadpool's mind is Ryan Reynolds' mind, and every section is like a different movie and a different character, and that's what made this movie. This is what this movie did to me, made me want to do, start to overthink it. Like Gary said, you see the world at one point and you see it again and you're like, holy shit. Even The Matrix didn't even do that kind of feeling, and they did 3 movies. Ryan Reynolds did it in 1. He really highlighted, mental health issues and how serious it can be, but then at the same time gave it like a comedy tone to take some of the seriousness off of it. And the other actors and actresses really played along with how he played with that universe. And then the whole song and dance number at the end was just...
Yeah, which is why this is going to be an easy recommendation for me. It's got just enough oddball elements to make its horror romance work. Ryan Reynolds really shines here, giving a great performance and delivering a really sympathetic character despite all the killings. Always apologetic, never threatening or intimidating, yet filling lots of Tupperware with body parts, and the film is also just great at slowly revealing this delusion before, the reality crashes in. And the film has a good pace, great supporting characters, some hilarious dialogue, lots of gore and blood, and a few memorable scenes. And this is a horror comedy done right, both in equal measure, resulting in a film with a lot of rewatchability. If anything, watch this for Bosco and Mr. Whiskers, because hearing voices can be murder. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Happy song, sing a happy song.